Hi, my name is Ben Moll and welcome to my presentation today. Today I'm going to be discussing the statement of whether vertical integration is a realistic HR strategy. Now, to set the premise of the video, most of the literature I've read and noted by Greenwood 2002 page 263, there's a lot of managerial perspectives. Now I wanted to step away from this idea and go down more of an ethical approach. So what I'm going to be looking at and posing the question of is that as more strategic HR becomes, the less it is more about people, but how you manage a resource. Now I'm going to look at different HR strategies, hard HRM, soft HRM, and try and work out the assumptions and the underpinning of how it actually isn't as ethical as it seems. And then I'm going to look at this idea that HR individuals can be ethical stewards, and whether this relates with stakeholder theory and how everyone should be treated equally. Now I must explain what vertical integration is. Now vertical integration is the alignment of your HR strategies with your business strategies. Now there's lots of different strategies which work here, but let's firstly focus on cost. Now Caldwell, 2011 page 172, explains that cost effectiveness is very important to HR now. HR needs to be financially accountable. So let's look at, with Porter in 1980s generic strategies, would say that cost leadership is one of the ways for businesses to do well. How ethically correct is that? How can you have hard HR techniques like reducing number of employees, de-skilling, lower wages, and that be anything about people? It's all about the business and all about making profit. Now a good element, a good example of this is Morrison's. Now Morrison's has been in the media for good reasons at the moment because it's met with the living wage and employees now get the living wage. Makes them seem ethical, right? But if you look at how they're doing, their performance is dropping drastically. They've had their biggest loss for the last 8 years. Now, this isn't a loss in profits, they're still making profits, but it's been fallen over a couple of years. So strategically, they've thought, let's close down our local convenience stores. But let's think of the repercussions for that. They are losing loads of jobs. These people need to look after their families and aspects like that. The business is still making profits, but it's all about the shareholder. It's all about making shares. It's all about making profits. The individual isn't cared about. And this is a HR strategy. They've thought that we need to cut down stores, and how do we do that? We then have to get rid of people. It's not about trying to revise these theories. And that brings on my first theory of Kante. Kante, 1964, is a philosopher with ethics. And simply speaking, he says you don't treat employees as a means to an end. Now Morrison's in that example treated them as a means to an end. The idea didn't work, we'll just get rid of them. How can that be ethically correct? Also, myself working as an internship. Now, internships are great, especially for myself. I've learned a lot throughout the year. But there's no end point to this. I wasn't offered a graduate job straight afterwards. And it shows that I was a means to an end. I was the cheapest labour. It was a good ethical way, according to companies, to get a cheap labour force, to get the hardest working employees. Now it's easy to pick at hard HRM. Hard HRM is easy to break down to ethical reasons. But soft HRM, the idea of giving people more autonomy, skilling them, learning and development, are elements which make a company seem more ethical. But is that the case? Greenwood 2002 page 263 that says soft HRM is just hard HRM in disguise. Let's think about it. It's a tool to manage employees, to manipulate them, to make them feel like they're good, make them feel like they want to work hard, but at the end of the day it's just about profits. Now I'm thinking about redundancies like I was before, and voluntary redundancies are a way of making it a bit more ethical. Now an example from my previous employment, voluntary redundancy was a scheme, and my manager at the time went for this scheme, and I thought, oh, it's great that she's been allowed to leave, she can then pursue a different career which she wanted to, but because she was integral to the business she was rejected. So it's still in hands of the company. It's not ethical at all. It's just a way of getting rid of people and make it seem ethical. Townley, 1993, would say these techniques to give more autonomy, voluntary redundancy, schemes which seem softer, are just a way to make people more calculable, more manageable, make them more responsible for their job. Now let's think about stakeholder theory. Now stakeholder theory is meant to be one of the most ethical theories out there, because it's meant to treat everyone the same. Freeman 1984 said that managers have a duty to attend to all those which are classed as a stakeholder. That brings me to my first question. Who is a stakeholder? What's the stakeholder relationship? I would argue that companies only care about one person, one relationship, and that is their shareholder. The shareholder gives them money and they pay dividends. You cannot think that a company which is cutting costs cares about their employees. It's great when they're doing well, but what about when they're having times of downturn? Now, there's no idea that HR can be ethical stewards, but I think is fantastic. I think that if HR practitioners can bring these ethics, they can make employees worth more. Now, according to Caldwell et al. 2008, page 153, leaders seek the best interest of every stakeholder in society in pursuit of a long-term wealth creation. So that's fantastic. It's all about making everyone who's involved in the company and the wider society benefit from the company. So let's think about infrastructure, think about learning and development, training people, it's give them more skills. It causes this multiplier effect, which Keynesian would talk about. Once a multinational goes in there, more employees are hired, which then means there's more money and it keeps multiplying and multiplying. But these are only in times of economic growth. When it comes downturn, again, companies only care about their own profits. Now, the thing about ethical stewardship is that there's a lot of literature focuses on leadership rather than the ethical grounds behind it. Now, I give question to whether it's rhetoric, how HR sells a dream. But let's think of an example. I'm giving you more autonomy. Now, if I give you more autonomy, Winslow and Woodhull, 2000, page 13 to 14, would state that if you give employees empowerment, it's a way increasing employee engagement. That's how I put it across to you. You'll become more engaged and therefore you'll work harder. What's the secret agenda behind it? It's actually to reduce costs. I can then get rid of my middle management. You're managing a team for me. I don't need that manager above there. I can strip down my hierarchy. I can reduce my costs. And it's all about cost efficiency. Even strategies which are about innovation, they're all about getting the best out of you and pulling everything out of you and then making you into a profit, into this resource. Now going back to this idea which Kant said, he's got an idea of Kantian capitalism. Now Greenwood 2002, page 268 says that no individual should be treated as a means to an end, and that encompasses shareholder theory. That's a perfect idea. And the aim of the organisation is to involve individuals to decide the future direction of the firm. But how realistic is that? It's a reconceptualisation of capitalism, which I don't believe is possible. Friedman, 1970, said that firms are there to make profit at the end of the day. A guest lecturer from Ben Brown, and at the end of the day it resonated with me. He said the person who pays the bills is the most important. Employees are deep in his heart, but if he's not going to get paid, he's going to have to change his strategy. Now I understand that Kantianism is an extreme. It can't be ethically possible in this capitalist society. But what I pose is that there needs to be more ethical research, because ethics will become this best practice approach. That implementing these ethics will become a business, will sell your business. If a company seems to be more ethical, it shows diversity, and aspects like that, it attracts people like myself. And so HRM needs to be more based around individualism. At the moment it's more pluralist. It has groups of people which they treat with different respects and different practices. What I pose is that ethics needs to be looked at. It needs to be researched more, because ethics at the moment isn't part of an organisational strategy. And if you're going to have HR leaders going into more strategic positions, they need to be pushing for employees to be treated better. And to conclude, I've been through different theories and I hope that I've shown that HR strategy, as it becomes more strategic, that it's more about treating individuals like a cog in a machine. It's not about the individual anymore, it's about how they fit the wider organisation and can make a profit. I'd like to pose that soft HRM isn't as ethical as it seems. There's always an underlying agenda of profits. Maybe hard HR is even the way forward, because they tell employees straight. There's no rhetoric. It's not how it's sold to an employee to get them involved. I'd pose that more research needs to be done into ethics and how people that get onto these strategic boards are able to implement ethics in an ethical way, not how you change it, how you make rhetoric to make your employees believe it.